Over the last few years, I've come to enjoy many of Jordan B. Peterson videos. And in those videos, there are many, many wonderful teachings, one of which I find to be most helpful. This particular teaching is something that I've been employing in my life since I was about 16 years old and on the edge of suicide. It is this particular teaching that turned my life around. Now, of course, I didn't know of Jordan B. Peterson when I was 16, because that would have been about 35 years ago. But the principle that's behind the teaching is universal, and we can find this principle if we really just start being honest with ourselves. I mentioned this teaching in several different videos, and he's articulated it in different ways, but essentially it is ask yourself what you could do that you would do that would positively change your life. That's essentially the video. Again, there are many different ways in which he's expressed this principle, but it is a principle, and really it comes down to honesty. I'd like to extrapolate upon and plumb the depth of this teaching because there's much more to it than meets the eye. And we're going to look at it from multiple different directions. I believe you'll find it extremely helpful in your life. There are any number of books, any number of videos about how to really transform your life. Most of these videos work on two elements. One is discipline. Like you need to set a goal, you need to set an aim, and you need to have discipline to follow through, and that will transform your life. But what I would suggest is that, although true to some degree, sort of misses the boat because actually most of us are unable to do that. Part of the reason why we're unable to do that is we're separated from ourselves within. In the samurai arts that I train, it requires deep inner integration to remove the separations of body and mind. And so if we look at the neurology, how it works, your brain is bifurcated. It's two halves. Your cerebral cortex is divided into two halves. The left side is primarily your logical mind. It's focus-oriented. It's language-oriented. The right side is primarily spatially aware, bodily aware. It integrates deeply with your subconscious mind. The left side is more of the personal self, and the right side is more of the sort of universal self perspective, we could say. And there's a conflict between these two. If there's a conflict between these two hemispheres in terms of their values, and there are. One's value is focus-based, list-based, willfulness, forcefulness, all that sort of thing. That's the left. And the other is much more about empathy, much more about awareness, much more about being. And so there's going to be a certain amount of conflict. Some of that conflict is as a result of us being dishonest with ourselves, of ignoring aspects of ourselves and covering over aspects of ourselves that create sort of inner dissonance, inner conflict, inner disharmony that usually we're unconscious to. This is the area where we really need to work, because you could really hammer the discipline aspect home. You could find an aim and you could just will your way to do it in theory, but that's actually not what happens. So how many of us make New Year's resolutions? I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, get myself in shape, and find out we only go 3 times ever. This is because we have an inner conflict. First point was that maybe the aim wasn't right. Maybe we didn't consult both hemispheres of the brain in the creation of the aim. And if we don't, we're going to get inner resistance to it. We're not going to be able to follow through. I do know that there are some individuals who are extremely willful and can push themselves to do things that even though they have inner conflict. But that usually ends up crashing down later in life when they run out of energy, and then they have regrets about their lives. And so what I'm going to teach you is a way of moving forward that is aligned, where the two halves of your brain start to work together, so that you don't have to brute force will your way through everything in life, and you're not just kind of dominating yourself or bullying yourself into doing this, that, and the other thing, guilting yourself into it, only to find out that you can't do it anyway and then lose trust for yourself. Most of us tell ourselves we're going to do lots of things, or we're going to stop doing lots of things. And we don't do those things. We don't stop doing those things. Consider what that does to your self-trust. There are two fundamental views, one from the left hemisphere's perspective and one from the right hemisphere's perspective. And every time you tell yourself you're going to stop doing that thing or start doing that thing, don't follow through, you're basically making this list of arguments within yourself of why you're not going to follow through subconsciously. Your own body won't take you seriously. Your emotions won't take you seriously. It's just like a parent who says, if you keep doing that, I'm going to send you to your room, and then they never send the kid to the room. They never actually follow through. The kid just doesn't trust the parent. Won't listen. The same thing happens in our own body. This is the mess that most of us are in. And, if that's what you're experiencing, you're not alone. This is a challenge that each of us has to go through every day. There isn't a person that just gets it right. This is welcome to humanity. We're ridiculous creatures. It's just how it is. This is true of the samurai too. They were all individuals and they all had these struggles. The question is, how do we work through these struggles in the most efficient, helpful way possible? And just brute forcing yourself through it isn't going to get you there. You might actually succeed in going to the gym 3 times a week for the rest of your life. But if you didn't take into account, if both hemispheres weren't equally involved in the decision and both aspects of you didn't come to a harmonious decision, there's going to be a far more resistance to the process than there needs to be. So let's see if we can't correct it. The solution or the process is actually very simple. The first step is you have to actually be determined to want to know what you really feel and think. And you might ask yourself, why wouldn't I want to know what I really feel and think? The answer is very simple. What you really feel and think might be a lot uglier, dirtier, and than you may have imagined. You have opinions about yourself that you have not articulated to yourself, possibly. You have beliefs about your abilities and limitations that you've not seen. And maybe these beliefs are not very healthy. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll kind of pause that briefly. We'll get into that in more detail towards the end of the video. I'm just going to teach you the method right now, and then we'll tackle that element at the end of the video. All right. The first method is you just sit with yourself very honestly. You just determine to be honest with yourself. To transform your life, you need to ask 2 questions. One is a question about doing. What do you need to do that you know you need to do? Because you probably know it already. What do you need to do to transform your life? Make it an honest question. Really mean it. And listen, probably as soon as you ask that question, the answer comes. When I started doing this, it completely transformed my life. This was the moment when I dropped what I was doing and I moved to Japan. I knew I needed to do it. Like, I really knew inside I needed to do it. I just didn't allow the left hemisphere to completely accept that knowledge because it was a risk. The thing that you need to do to transform your life is almost certainly going to be risky. And the reason you're not doing it, or maybe the reason you haven't even acknowledged it consciously, is because it is risky, right? Anything worth doing is likely risky, including falling in love. The next question you need to ask is, what do you need to stop doing to transform your life? And that's also going to be risky, because what it is you're doing that you need to stop doing is providing you some sort of comfort, providing you some sort of insulation from aspects of yourself that you haven't wanted to be honest about, is allowing you to sort of melt away in the weakest aspects of yourself. It's going to take honesty. Now, the danger, this is the part at the end of the video that I really wanted to talk about. That's best to wait till the end of the video. But before we get to that, if you found these questions helpful, if you find these videos helpful, it will really help me to get this video out to more people who could make use of it to transform their lives if you subscribe. And also, if you would, could you share in the comments section if you got answers to these questions? One is, did you get an answer to what you need to do to positively transform your life? And 2, what did you need to stop doing? Do you need to stop doing to positively transform your life? For everything you do, you must sacrifice something. So you need to not just stop doing something, you need to stop doing something and replace it with something that you do. If you only do something, but don't stop doing something, it won't work. If you only stop doing something but don't start doing something positive, it won't work. If you stop doing something negative, maybe you have an addiction, for example, but don't replace it with something positive, it will be replaced with another addiction that may be worse than the first one. So you need to replace what you're stopping with something positive. And when you do something positive, you must sacrifice something negative. This is just how life works, because you will always replace the negative with something else negative if you don't replace it with something positive. If that was helpful for you, please give the video a like. The next thing I hope you would comment on, some of you this is going to be a little bit more risky. Take a risk. What is it you need to start doing? Share that in the comments section. What do you need to start doing that you know you need to start doing, or that you received as an answer? And what is it you need to stop doing that you know you need to stop doing, that you received the answer to? Share that. It will help other people to recognize they're not alone. We are not alone in this process. Every single one of us has this struggle, but most of us simply don't know to ask these two questions. There are two questions. What do you need to do? What do you need to stop doing? And both of them are funneled towards what is healthy in terms of transforming your life. And this method works. It will transform your life. And when you get it right, you will find out that, whoa, those answers are challenging. Those answers are challenging, but they're challenging because they come from within you. Now, the key point is these answers are not things that other people told you. These are things that you know you need to do and stop doing, that you agree with, right? Nobody else. Let's not cede our authority to somebody else. You're the samurai here. It's your life. You need to find the way to align your center with your aim. And it's an excuse and it's nonsense to put it on somebody else. It's somebody else's idea. No. What do you know that you need to do and need to stop doing? Once you come to that realization and it comes from you, it'll be far more powerful than if it's something somebody else told you to do, because you know it. And this is why we don't want to ask these questions oftentimes. This is why we haven't asked these questions. The reason we haven't asked these questions is once we know what it is we need to do, and once we know what it is we need to stop doing, we don't have any more excuses. It's clear. Aim is set. And what if we don't believe we can do it? What if we're in such a miserable place? What if we've so utterly destroyed our self-trust and self-respect that we know we're not going to do it, even though we know it's the one thing we need to do right now and need to start doing, and the thing that we need to stop doing? Even we know if we're going to make a positive change in our life, even we know it, we also know that we're not going to do it. That's a miserable place to be, but you're not alone. I would suggest that most people are there. And because we're trapped in this place of not trusting ourselves, not believing in ourselves, we cannot spiritually awaken and we cannot transform our lives. Banish the idea of magical thinking that you're just going to someday, somehow you're just going to awaken without addressing the lack of self-love, lack of self-respect, lack of self-appreciation, lack of all that essential stuff. You are an expression of the universe. You are a descendant of uncountable generations of the most successful people on the planet. Your lineage has gone through complete earth disasters. Humanity at one point was reduced about 40,000 years ago, reduced to about 5,000 individuals. You're a descendant from those individuals. There's a lot more to you than you know. Now, if you're at a place where you don't trust yourself, you don't respect yourself, you don't believe you can follow through on what you need to know, what you know you need to start doing and stop doing to transform your life, you need to break it down into smaller steps. You need to start doing stuff that you know you can do and will do, and do them. And you need to build up a backlog of successes so you can prove to your body that you are going to follow through, that you do follow through, and so that it no longer has an excuse to create that lethargic feeling and allow you to just miss everything. There's far more to each of us than we know. There's far more to you than you know. Give yourself a chance. Break your goal down into smaller steps and act on it. Action will change your life. Now, there's one more thing that I'd like to talk about. I know personally that I needed a mentor in my life. Most people actually need mentoring in their lives. My teacher, Osaka Sensei, was my mentor. He was brilliant. He helped me to show up. You may need help to show up, and you may need deeper insights. You may need someone to share your feedback with. Find that person. Bring mentoring into your life. If you find me to be that person, if you feel like you could benefit from me being your mentor, you can reach out to me. Click the link in the description for one-to-one mentoring with me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.